Welcome, fellow members of the Esoteric Order of Gamers. It's unboxing time, yes, joy of unboxing, and today we've got Deathwatch Overkill. It's the new board game packed with miniatures from Games Workshop. Suffer not the alien to live. And it's basically more combat fun, basically Marines versus Gene Stealers and Gene Stealer hybrids and things. We haven't seen Gene Stealer hybrids for a long time. They go back to one of the original Space Hulk expansions, which was called Gene Stealer. And it's nice to see them come back into the Warhammer 40,000 world. Now, this game has just been released. I actually pre-ordered it, and it's just arrived a few moments ago. And of course, the first thing I thought was, well, let's unbox it with the fellow members of the Esoteric Order of Gamers. So, let's have a look inside. It's a nice glossy box. Not particularly thick, but this is the new size for Games Workshop board games. And as we all know, they've been churning out a few of these lately. There's been Assassinorum, Execution Force, there's been Betrayal at Calth, and now Deathwatch Overkill. A very subtle title, that one, isn't it? Well, and of course there's lots of miniatures. There's a little bit of padding here. Very considerate. We've got a rulebook all shrink wrapped. We've got some nice thick cardboard tiles shrink wrapped. There's some cards, more cards, lots of bases, dice, a flimsy little plastic range ruler. This hasn't changed much. They were making these range rulers way back in the very early days of Games Workshop board games. And here are our miniatures. 1, 2, 3 large sprues and 2 small large sprues. Well, that's what you get. Now, I'm only going to have this whinge once, but I have to say these games are outrageously priced. I'm sorry, but down here in New Zealand, this game goes for 330 New Zealand dollars. That is a lot of money. Now, I was lucky to get this pre-ordered for 280. That's still a lot of money, and compared to any other board game on the market, it is outrageously priced. The miniatures are beautiful. They're lovely and they're detailed and they're really nice. The game is good. It's lots of good quality, but it is too much compared to other games on the market. And I don't think Games Workshop should be charging that much. But they're a huge company and they've got shareholders to please. So we're all paying a premium, and here I am, I've bought it. So I'm just as guilty as the next person. Anyway, with that rave aside, let's have a look at the goodies. Well, here are the non-model parts of the game. And first, you'll see these rather lovely board tiles, and thankfully they're double-sided. They're also embossed. I don't know if you can catch that in the light there. Oh, you can quite clearly. There you go. So, glossy and embossed. They're certainly good quality. They seem to be some kind of gantry arrangement. And in fact, you do have line of sight across these gantries, so that makes the game a bit different. So that's one board. As usual, all very gothic and grimdark. Now, Games Workshop have also done a gaming video for this game to give you an idea of how it plays, and it was quite fun. And the two people who are playing the game have a lot of personality and make it seem a lot of fun, which is great. Though I did get the impression from the gaming video that the game was a little unbalanced, but actually I've seen reviews since, and it is in fact an asymmetrical game. you only have a very small number of Marines, and you have heaps and heaps of Gene Stealers and Gene Stealer hybrids. And you really have to throw hordes and hordes of those Gene Stealers at the Marines to try and kill them. And apparently the scenarios are very cinematic and a lot of fun and fast moving, which is not quite the impression I got from the gameplay video, but I'm pleased to hear that it is fast moving and cinematic. So here's our rulebook. Nice clear rulebook, lots of artwork, and there's a series of missions, and apparently there's an interlinked series of missions too. So you can do a bit of a campaign. So that's 7, 8 missions all up. Sorry, I tell a lie, 9 missions. So there's our rulebook. And of course we've got our miniature assembly guide, and as usual they're made up of heaps and heaps of little bits, though they are fixed poses, so you can't do too much of your own modification to these. Wow, look at all that. There's certainly a lot of work in putting all those together and painting them. That's going to take a while. Whew. That's that. Then we've got some cards, and these are our Marines. An interesting choice to show the face of the Marines. Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with that, because it's kind of not really relating to anything that's on the board. I'd rather see a picture of the miniature so I can immediately recognize it, but there's not too many of these special characters, so I suppose I'll get the hang of it quickly. And they're a funny looking bunch. Look at this guy. Nobody's smiling. Nobody smiles in the 41st millennium. There's our Gene Stealer Magus, Gene Stealer Primus, and the Gene Stealer Patriarch. And then we have a deck of cards, a small deck, and you have these Gambit cards, which are various things that you can spring on the Marine player. And they're also ambush cards. So these are dual purpose cards. They let you put out Gene Stealers on the board, and they can also be played for the Gambit. Just normal cards, no, not too bad, no fancy finish or anything on those. So they're the components. Let's have a look at the miniatures. Well, it's kind of hard to see these effectively when they're still on the sprue, but as you can see, there's all the detail that you've come to expect from Games Workshop miniatures. There's a nasty looking Patriarch figure there. There's one guy on a motorcycle. Yep, always good to be riding a motorcycle over gantries. But that's how hardcore these Marines are. And there's lots of Marine bits. Anyway, you get the idea. Good quality Games Workshop miniatures. And good to see those old Gene Stealer hybrids make a comeback. Now, of course, as usual, there'll probably be a lot of people who buy this game just for the miniatures. And in fact, with previous games like Betrayal at Calth, there's been a bit of a market on eBay for buying just the game components and not the miniatures, which is in fact something I did for Betrayal at Calth, because I have a lot of old Warhammer 40,000 miniatures lying around, so I thought I'd proxy the pieces, and I didn't want to pay the huge cost of the full game. But in a case like this, there's not many of these Gene Stealer hybrid figures around, and they're lovely miniatures, so I thought I'd go the whole hog and buy the whole thing. But those people who do buy the game and just keep the miniatures might be missing out, because apparently this is a fun, fast-paced game, and I, for one, am really glad to see Games Workshop making games like this again, albeit at a crazy price. I do wish they'd just get a bit more reasonable with their prices. And in fact, if they got more reasonable with their prices across the board, they'd probably see more people move from these board games to their large tabletop games. But nobody's going to listen to me on that score. In the meantime, it's great to see Games Workshop churning out some fun board games for people like me who aren't interested in their tabletop games anymore. Occasionally, if there's not too many of them, I'll fork out and get these full board games because they're fun. And I've got a lot of the old board games that they used to make in the late 80s and 90s. And I think they were some of Games Workshop's classics. So there you go, folks. Deathwatch Overkill, the brand new game from Games Workshop. Value, not so much. Quality, certainly high. And I've heard the game is a lot of fun. So hopefully I'll be painting up the miniatures and might be showing some of that on the Esoteric Order of Gamers later on. That's Esoteric Order of Gamers, orderofgamers.com. See you there. And thanks for watching.